alanga la fila fuye, alanga la ferreke yere, oshunga la fila fuye, alanga la fila fuye, oshun, alanga la fila fuye, alanga la ferreke yere, oshunga la fila fuye, alanga la fila fuye, oshun, alanga la fila fuye, alanga la ferreke yere, oshunga la fila fuye, alanga la fila fuye, oshun, alanga la fila fuye, alanga la ferreke yere, oshunga la fila fuye, alanga la fila fuye, oshun, alanga la fila fuye, alanga la ferreke yere, oshunga la fila fuye, alanga la fila fuye, oshun, alanga la fila fuye, alanga la ferreke yere, oshunga la fila fuye, alanga la fila fuye, oshun, alanga la fila fuye, alanga la ferreke yere, oshunga la fila fuye, alanga la fila fuye, oshun, alanga la fila fuye, alanga la ferreke yere, oshunga la fila fuye, alanga la fila fuye, oshun, alanga la fila fuye, alanga la ferreke yere, oshunga la fila fuye, alanga la fila fuye, oshun, alanga la fila fuye, alanga la ferreke yere, oshunga la fila fuye, olomi ayapa, olodo ayapa, 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 alanga la fila fuye, oshun, alanga la fila fuye, alanga la ferreke yere, oshunga la fila fuye, alanga la fila fuye, oshun, alanga la fila fuye, alanga la ferreke yere, oshunga la fila fuye, olomi ayapa, olodo ayapa, olomi ayapa, olodo ayapa, olomi ayapa, olodo ayapa, olomi ayapa, olodo ayapa, talade shun talade olodo, oshun talade, talade talade olori, oshun talade, talade olodo, oshun talade, oshun talade olori, oshun talade, oshere mi kumere, oshun talade, oshere mi kumere, oshun talade, talade olodo, oshun talade, oshun talade olori, oshun talade, oshere mi kumere, oshun talade, oshere mi kumere, oshun talade, talade olodo, oshun talade, olori.
Greetings, everybody. Hello. How are you all tonight? I hope everyone is well and good. You are tuned in with me, Maame, here on blessradio1.com. And I hope you're all good. Did I just say that? I sometimes repeat myself. And anyway, I hope everyone's had a great and wonderful week. It's been another week, particularly here in the UK, and yeah, then it's probably going to be like that this year. Again, big up and give thanks to Brother Raggedy for licking out those wonderful tunes these past couple of hours. We give thanks always. And yeah, I always enjoy listening to Raggedy on my way in. Anyway, I love listening to Raggedy. So, wow. Before I just go any further, I just want to just take a minute's tribute to give my respects and my thoughts to the family and to the memory of Brother Douglas, who is a great leader and member of the community who sadly passed away last year this week. And he was also a presenter here on Bless Radio 1 and he was just known and loved in the community. And I hadn't met Brother Dougie for a couple of years, but every time I'd seen him years prior, he always had a smile. He was always so encouraging and always so uplifting. And I know he just did a lot to try and uplift the community, to bring awareness, particularly regarding health and well-being. And his departing from this realm was a sad loss. But we know that energy and the spirit always transcends, and Brother Dougie is still looking down on us. He's now in the realm of the ancestors. He's amongst one of the angels, and I'm sure his spirit and energy lives on. And I think his energy and what he represented is a beacon for many of us that we can try and we can emulate. Just always thinking of the community, putting the community first and uplifting others. And that's one of the key things I always remember from and about Brother Dougie. So my thoughts are with Brother Dougie and his family and his friends, all those that knew him, and we salute the great works of Brother Dougie. And also, there was a sister that passed here, Sister Leo. She was also a presenter on Blessed Radio. I never met Sister Leo, but again, she was family. She was a Blessed Radio 1 family, and from what I've heard, she was another wonderful community activist and worker, and a sister that brought light and integrity, and it was another beacon of light. And her passing is a sad loss. So thoughts and prayers go out to the soul and the essence and the spirit of Sister Leo and her family and her loved ones. Last year was a year of losses, and many great people made that transition, and particularly around this time actually as well, in March, though I know Sister Leo passed much later in the year last year. So just wanted to take a moment to just remember them. And also it was I think it was on the 25th last year as well, where one of the great African shamans, historians, custodians of history, South African history and sacred law, was the great and wonderful Credo Mutwa, who I think Credo is 98, I hope I have that right, when he's sadly transcended and moved on into one of the ancestors last year. And Credo was a phenomenal force, and he was a writer, a great shaman, Sangoma, which is a spiritual healer in the South African spiritual tradition. Credo was also became even more known and popular in the West through his work and his interviews with David Icke in probably the early 2000s. And there were some extensive videos and interviews where Credo shared a lot of African secret or sacred knowledge and information that probably wasn't known too readily in the West, about alien intervention, beings from other realms, and just general intergalactic law. Credo Mutwa was a wealth of knowledge, and a special human being that was gifted to us. And so I salute and I pay homage to the great Baba Credo Mutwa as well. So, yeah, just a moment to take that in. Okay, listeners, tonight's show is going to be about the moon, in homage and in herald to the upcoming full moon this Sunday on the 28th of March. Sorry, they're speaking in the background there. Can you tell this, please? We're recording. Sorry about that, listeners. If you can hear, I can hear that in the background, somebody talking when there's a show that's meant to be going on. Anyway, So, where was I? Yes. Give thanks, brother. Thanks for that. So, yes, so today's show is going to be in homage to the full moon in Libra, the upcoming full moon. It's a super moon as well. This Sunday on the 28th of March. So I'm going to just be exploring about the moon, just all things to do with the moon. I'm going to first, in the first half, touch on the moon. What is the moon from an astronomical and astrological perspective? How does it affect us? And I've kind of gone into the moon like in my first show here, kind of touched on the moon, the different moon phases. I'm just going to kind of just elaborate a little bit on some of the points that I made in that first show. And I did again touch on the moon again in my fourth show, I think it was, on the show was entitled Astrology and Religion, where I went into the links in this ocean is actually with the moon and the sun, and their links with Islam and Christianity. I kind of see Islam as kind of taking a lot of that moon energy, and Christianity was adopting and carrying on the energy and the principles of the sun. So again, there's always balance. So, yes, I'm going to touch again. I'm not going to go into all that again because that's all been said and done. But I just mention that to say that, it has kind of been touched on, but I'm not going to necessarily touch on the things that was touched on in those shows. But, it's give a different perspective. But some things are going to be gone over, but with a different twist. And then later on, probably in the second half, I will then be talking more so specifically about this upcoming full moon, super moon, on Sunday the 28th of March, and what that means, what to expect, what we can possibly expect on a personal level and out there globally, probably things that will come up in the news or issues surrounding the whole theme of this full moon. So yeah, that's going to be, I guess, the show. And as always, listeners are welcome to call in or to text in any questions, any comments, any feedbacks, all welcome and appreciated on the studio line, which I'll just give the studio line right now for my air hostess voice. is 079 444 31366. I repeat that again, 079 444 31366. So that's the studio line. So it's just going to be me today. There's no guest today, so it's just me and my lonesome self. So you're gonna have to put up with me today, listeners. But I hope I'm not going to bore you all, and I hope you'll be, interesting, or some things that can, be of some interest at least, and food for thought. So I do miss my, but I do like having guests and different people to bounce off of and feedback on. It kind of gives a nice vibe, but I'll try and keep myself stimulated and keep myself up because I'm sure you can all know how it can be come this time of Friday night. You just wanted to wind down, but I gotta stay up. So anyway, I got some nice tunes today, particularly a bit later on, that's gonna just keep me going at least. Some Sukos Ndombolo. Shout out to my Congolese people. The music, wonderful sounds. Then no, it's not strictly Congolese because one of the artists is from Tanzania, Diamond Plants. But anyway, I'll go into that a little bit later on when I play them. But yeah, they're just a bit more kind of uplifting, get up, whine, shake them hips, kind of music, shake them cobwebs. You know what I mean? By the legacy. Keep me going at least. And I hope, you can get you listeners as well, just kind of shaking off those cobwebs and just kind of being free because it is Friday night after all. And even though all the clubs and everything are closed down and we can't really have much fun out there, we can still have fun in our homes, in our yards, So the tunes hopefully will kind of get that energy kind of going. So, all right, listeners, I'm just going to finish off my intro and then I'll be back and we'll get into the show. Okay.
Oshun, play drum. Hey, Ibejilo, yeah, Oshun. Ibejilo, Gulo, Oshun. Ibejilo, yeah, Oshun.
Okay. All right, listeners, I'm back. Just having a little convoy there with Brother Raggedy. Yay! Yeah, do you want to advertise what you're doing for with the bikes?
Well, I'm gonna let you carry on do what you
No, I'm gonna have a little. Yeah, Brother D just gonna come to Mike and just say a little something of what, kind of your works that he does.
Hold on.
And use that one, okay.
Yeah. 1-1. Yeah. Sounds low.
Check.
Hello. There.
Okay.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. I just finished the show before Mama Essie. Yeah. As everybody know, I'm part of the Rockstone Bike Shop that 335 Lordship Lane, Tottenham N17, 6AB. They're open from 10 a.m. till 6, Monday to Friday, and 9 a.m. till 6 on the Saturday. And also we do hire bikes, so come between the hours of 10 and 4. You can hire a bike to ride around the park, and 9 a.m. till 4 on a Saturday. So, but I'm going to catch you next week, so I'm going to leave it back with Mama Essie.
Yay! Give thanks, brother. Yes, listeners, so you can catch Brother Raggedy, part of the day job. Yeah, doing his work there with the bikes. Yeah, that's good actually. I can't ride a bike, so I've been used to. I'm probably too old now. They say that the best time is when you're young, isn't it?
I learned tricycle first.
Okay. Oh, well,
Then BMX.
yeah. But you know what? Like they say, you're never too old to learn anything, and I'm not that old. I'm still young, so ish.
I want to know what's older at it.
Yeah, no, it's too no. That's just. I know probably anything I was.
You're fighting me. That's right. So I might not get where you were.
No, we're young still. We're young. You're only as old. Age is a number, and you're as young as your mentality and your mind. And yeah. What is old? It's true. That could be a good philosophical debate, actually. What is old and what is young? It's all a state of mind.
Some people last to 100, isn't it?
Exactly. Even and then some. So no, it's not. I need to know. It's wisdom. It probably shouldn't be called old. Wisdom. Getting on in wisdom. Oh, this Lucas age. I wish. Yeah, you never know. Give me that energy. I need that kind of kick on a Friday night. But this time, I want to be sleeping, just chilling down my Horlicks. I'm doing this, but I love it. And I'm glad to be here with the listeners. And and you as well, brother.
I don't drink Horlicks. I don't read such standard. You make me sound like you're really old.
You see, I'm giving it. I know Horlicks and my hobnobs, with my hobnob biscuits. And I used to have Milo, so maybe that's a bit kind of funkier. But nah, Horlicks is also, I should do hot chocolate or cocoa. That's the trendy, herb healthy option. But nah, I'm keeping it real. My Horlicks, I like my Horlicks. But keeping it real. Anyway, listeners, let me get back. You see, I can always kind of get diverted, but it's when you got good company and good convo, you can kind of always get diverted. But okay, let's get started. So, like I was saying, this has been another interesting week. And like, I think it's a Chinese saying, which is, we're living in very interesting times. Very, very interesting times. And, well, particularly here. Oh, sorry, I just realized something was up the whole time. And the mixer, is that okay? This was up. This was up, that's okay. All right, so listeners, Brother Raggadzy's helping me out with the technical issues, or no, the technical, the technical levels, abilities, or whatever, the mixer.
You got your own teeth in?
I got my own teeth. I'm not that old yet. I'm not.
Because it sounds like you're struggling.
I am, because I'm like, what do you even call it? See, this is all totally new, so I don't know what you even call all these equipment here. I know it's mixers or something, but...
No, you're struggling to say that.
Yeah, it's a mixer. That's it. Helping with the mixers. I got that in the end. So, yeah, the mixer.
It's a T.
It's a T, yeah, the technical. Anyway, then I was trying to kind of with a fancy word, but I'm like, nah, it's just a mixer. Or you're trying to help me, you're the technician. Yeah, the technician is what I was trying to say. Yeah, you're being the technician for me right now. Put me in it. Okay, but yes. All right.
You're going to call me blessed.
No, and I'm not calling you blessed. I definitely know you ain't blessed today. Blessed is where he is right now, so no. Blessed should be up here helping with the technician. Blessed, if you're listening. Anyway, but lucky that Brother Raggadzy is here. But anyway, and good old Leon. All right, listeners, let me get back. Let me stay focused. Did I say old Leon? Oh my God, see, I got old in a brain now. Sorry, Leon is definitely not old. Young Leon. Leon is definitely not old. Leon is good, good young age. Like all of us, so we're good young age. Anyway, young age, that just matter. Let me get back to the topic at hand today. All right, so like I was saying, I think what I was saying is that we are living in interesting times. I think, sorry if I'm repeating myself again, listeners, but I got so sidetracked now. So I think I did say that, but I'm just repeating that to just reference again in that we're living in very interesting times, Chinese saying. And we're seeing that, particularly over here in the UK now. I know over the past couple of weeks, while I've been doing these shows myself and my guests that have come on, and particularly a couple of weeks ago when I did the show with the lovely Sabrina, when we went very much into talking about Uranus. Shout out to you, Sabrina, sis. And when we were talking about Uranus, because that week, I think the next day heralded the anniversary of when Uranus was discovered. So, yeah. So basically, we were talking then about what to expect with the whole energy of Uranus, being associated with revolution and kind of fighting back that spirit of resistance, rebellion, and because there's this thing, this Saturn-Uranus conjunction and square aspects, astrological square aspects, that we're going to be seeing. It's going to be aspects in different times throughout this year. There is all of this tension, like has been said on this platform and on many other astrological platforms as well by many other astrologers, in that there's going to be a clash between authority and the people, because Saturn represents rules, regulations, the authority, the establishment, and it's a constricting energy. It's a curbing. It restricts you. It restricts freedom of movement, freedom of expression, which we're seeing in so many of the laws that has happened since that C word came into effect and came into being. And Uranus, the energy of Uranus, wants to be free. Uranus wants liberty and freedom for all and for everybody. So like has been predicted and anticipated, there was going to be, there's going to be a clash, because when there's so much restrictions and so much limitations, and particularly when we're starting to see when information and data is coming out that's out there in the MSM arena of particularly the statistics regarding the C word coming down and losses. But yeah, particularly over here in the UK, we are still in lockdown, and though there is a roadmap allegedly, to be coming out of this. So there was a little bit of hope, there was glimmers of hope, but within the past 2 weeks, we've over here seen there's been a bill, a new police bill that was going to be introduced by government, and that didn't go down, and hasn't gone, oh, sorry, my goodness me, sorry there. That didn't go down very well. Oh gosh, my drink come out. So that didn't go down, and so that hasn't gone down very well, which led on Sunday to some, what you could call, some protests and rebellion, riots. That's some have classified as a riot. Between in Bristol, between the people and the police, which started out originally it was as a protest against the imposition of these new laws, this whole new policing and sentencing bill, I think it's the full name. So, and then on last Saturday, there was a big, massive protest. I know there was many protests all around the world. I think it was a freedom protest, basically just people coming out and protesting and letting it be known about how tired, and unhappy they are with so much of these restrictions and limitations that have come about this whole past year. And those protests, particularly in London, went very peacefully. I know there's always going to be some arrests, but we didn't hear there was no stories of like what arose the week previous at the vigil for Sarah Everard. So I think the police there was quite a more of a mindful. I suppose that was in the mind and the consciousness of everybody, and probably within the police force as well and people. But anyway, it was a big massive turnout, and there was, like I just said, there was many protests in Europe at least, probably around the world, but I know definitely in Europe. So again, that's just all. I mean, there's been protests that's been happening anyway this past year, but again, I think this is one of the ones that's probably the biggest one since that Uranus and Saturn square that took place in February. So we're seeing again the astrology at play regarding we'll just be saying that, regarding how the energies play out. Saturn, more laws, regulations, clamp down, and Uranus, just the people not having it. And we've even seen, even in Parliament this week on yesterday, when there was an extension, there was a 6-month extension bill that was proposed in order for an extension of the CVID Act, and there was much talk of, so-called rebel Tory MPs, and I don't necessarily like the rebel, but I think no, it's MPs that are doing the job of MPs, who are standing up and being the voice of the people. And the whole form of what democracy should really represent is for everybody, or the premise is for everybody's thoughts and opinions to be taken into consideration, and a consensus that should be reached and should come across, that is by consensus by the people. Government is to serve the people. And I think very much of what's happened this past year is, many people, and why there is this growing dissatisfaction and dissidence, is so many things and so many civil liberties and everything seems to have been eroded and taken away without very much scrutiny from other other political parties. And so it's so refreshing and it's so great to see that within the Conservative Party, you see in MPs who have been, it's just not even this week, for months, that have been the voice, and they're actually becoming the microphone, the voice of the people. Because they're in that position of power now where they can, through their voice, be speaking for the millions out there who are so unhappy, who are so disenfranchised with everything that has happened. And that is so very needed. So, and the support of these MPs, I think they should be held, because it's always hard to always stand up in a group amongst your peers, in an organization, in whatever kind of capacity it may be, and particularly when you or a few of you are the voices that goes against the common consensus. That is something that it's very hard to do, particularly when you're going out there amongst the power machine of government and the media, and you're still speaking your truths and given the other side, given the other balance, which is needed in a democracy. There should be freedom of information for everybody to be able to access and come to their own conclusions about many things, and not just have a one narrative story. That doesn't work, and only for so long will that and can that be kept up. And once that level of fear, which so much of what the energy has been about this past year, starts to wane, and people can look at things from a more detached perspective and see what's going on around them, and seeing that sometimes things aren't really fitting the narrative that one is being told, or the only sole narrative, then those voices and those opinions and those questions need to be able to be aired and articulated fairly and in a balanced way. And with the Uranus energy, if that doesn't happen, it will just make it happen somehow, because that's what Uranus will do. It's just that shake up and that wake up call of anything that becomes complacent, anything that is restrictive. It's like, no, the people, the energy is speaking, it is not having it. That's why the energy is particularly of Uranus in this earth sign of Taurus manifest as earthquakes, that shift in that tectonic plate, that pressure that just, on the underground that's putting pressure, that's kind of bumping together to get that explosion, boom, that parting, and then you get that roar and we get the earthquake. And it's also likened again to that volcano, that just is bubbling under the surface, and then come the time it just erupts. All that fire, brimstone, lava erupts. And when that erupts, how is that going to be handled? How is that going to be channeled? So I always think it's better, before something gets to that stage, to deal and to listen to the voices, to listen to the feelings, and to take that into consideration and respect. Because ultimately power is about the people, and it should be, and originally is meant to be, for the people, for everybody, that inclusivity. And there's always history, reveals and shows to us that, for only a period of time do dictators, if you want to call them that, or people that centralize power into just one medium and one outlet, it only lasts for so long. Only ever lasts for so long. And the balance always has to come back. Nature, that's just how everything is governed. Imbalance only stays for a period and can only sustain for a certain limit of time. And then it has to be addressed. And the energies are addressed through people, through events, through the weather, through forces and objects coming from the heavens as well. Asteroids, meteorites, comets, they all come and they all are in association with things that's happening on the earth, on the celestial plane. It's never by accident. So, we always have to take heed of that. We always have to take heed. You can have power or centralized power 30, 40 years. But at some stage, that power is going to lose, just like we're talking about age, just there, me and Brother Ragged D. And everything is time. Saturn is time. Saturn's the energy and the marker of time. Everything has its time. And so even if you can be in power for a long time of a good old age, you're going to have your time. Because nobody or no system, no empire lives forever. Saturn always sees to that. There is a time period and a time constraint. And once you have that time, and if you haven't utilized that time right, when that time comes for that changeover, how is that going to materialize? And the energy of Uranus, like again we're saying, that kind of young energy, like we're talking about again, which ironically kind of ties in with all of this, is that, that young energy of, the handing over of the baton. When the eldership, has had their time, the youth, and when I say youth, I don't necessarily mean literally youth. Youth could be anything that is new. Young is anything that is new, upcoming with that promise. That is that definition of what is, the young taking over. So it's not, and that doesn't have to come with inexperience. It's just that, the new day, the new dawn. Saturn is that night when things are, wearing and waning down. And then that Uranus is that burst of that fresh new energy, that fresh new light. And obviously, when something is, dawning, it's of more strength than when something is waning. So that's kind of those things that we need to keep in mind as well. So I'm just saying all this so that, listeners, you can see that the dynamics of the astrology and the energies are always at play. And that's why it's kind of, when we hear these news events and these things that are happening, just to kind of, bear that in mind. So when we're seeing stories of, the protests, people coming out, the marches, that's Uranus. When people even from social media are sharing information and giving different insights and different perspectives, that's all that Uranus energy. When people kind of socialize and mobilize in that way, that's the Uranus energy. When people are now talking about, a different world, a different reality, a utopian reality, if that can even really exist, that's that Uranus energy. And when we hear of all these laws, restrictions, clamp downs, slowness of pace, that is all Saturn. When it's almost the energy is being stubborn and doesn't want to heed because it thinks I'm in control. That's Saturn, or the negative aspects of Saturn that is kind of playing out. Saturn does have good parts. And there's also some negative aspects to Uranus as well, but in terms of everything has its good and its bad. But what we're just seeing quintessentially is, Saturn is the rules, restrictions, laws, authority, and this is a time where Saturn wants to control, because there is a new paradigm. As I say all that, there is a new paradigm that is coming. And we hear of so much of this talk of the great, the great reset, this new age, this new time, this new industrial age that they're talking about. That is all, again, that Saturn and Uranus link. So it's Saturn kind of wanted to control the narrative. But again, if it's limited and restricting, Uranus, for the people and all of the people are not going to have that. They're not going to accept that, because it has to be inclusive. It has to be for everybody. It has to be balanced. So, yeah. So that's just a little bit there of what has been happening this week, and the dynamics and the energies that are at play, and also that we saw with this bill that happened yesterday in the Houses of Parliament, once again here in the UK, with the extension of the C word bill. And again, it just has to kind of be questioned. If so many of the statistics are coming down and there's a roadmap, why is, I know there's always going to be reasons for the extension, fair enough, but still, things need to be questioned and need to be able to be questioned, and we need good, accountable answers, credible answers that need to be scrutinized. That is also what good journalism is meant to be about, to ask those tricky questions, to get those answers. And most politicians and people that know and deal with media are trained and know and understand and respect that. So, all accountability needs to be addressed. Accountability is the name of the game. And it's really interesting because this week on there's a song which I'm going to play by a Jamaican artist called Ginger, and the title of the song is called Accountability, which is all about just that, everything that's happening. And I just find it very interesting that I know, particularly on social media and my social media accounts, this song, and a lot of people I know, this song has been circulating. And again, it goes with like the energy, the astrology, the energy of what we've just been discussing, and what is the vocal point right now of where we are at. So I just think with that being said, I'm going to just play the song and just, listeners, you have a listen for it yourself and just, take in the message.
I heard the cries of the people. Leaders fail. We the people gonna hold the government accountable. Tell the Queen's Council accountable. We the people gonna hold the pharmaceutical companies accountable. Mr. Constable, accountable. We the people going hold the world leaders and scientists accountable. Tell the Queen's Council accountable. With them rush vaccine, Pfizer vaccine, them no care if it hurt you. What that mean accountable? Tell the constable, yeah. Story come to boom, control population stunt. The leaders them not be up front. Bill Gates safe in them bunk, yeah. Over 1 million and not people die, and I know we no see no leaders I cry, wonder why. I wonder. They must be born without eyes. I wonder. Yeah. Them say the road too populated. Them when we get frustrated. Them say every black woman and child and black man should be vaccinated. We never come here to be no human guinea pig. Yeah. No. So live and make we live, yeah. For the evil you're doing in the name of goodness, we know there are crimes, huh? So live and make we live, yes now. We the people must hold the government accountable. Tell the Queen's Council accountable. People go hold the pharmaceutical companies accountable. Tell the constable accountable. We the people go hold the leaders and scientists accountable. Tell the Queen's Council accountable. If you rush vaccine, Pfizer vaccine, them no care if it hurt you. What that mean accountable? Tell the constable, all the evil you're doing in a Jesus' name, you are going to charge me one crime. trick with politics every day through hard times. Trying to do what you did to our ancestors years ago in our time. Hope you know we know what you hope to. We've been reading all signs. We the people who hold the government accountable. Tell the Queen's Council accountable. We the people who hold the pharmaceutical companies accountable. Tell the constable accountable. We the people who hold the leaders and scientists accountable. Tell the Queen's Council accountable. If you rush vaccine, Pfizer vaccine, them not care if it hurt you. What that mean accountable? Tell the constable. Someone got to be accountable. Tell the Queen's Council accountable. Yes now. Someone got to be accountable. Tell the constable accountable. Accountable. Yes, for real. Someone got to be accountable.
Okay, listeners, yeah, I'm back. That was Ginger and Accountable. Yeah, powerful lyrics, powerful song, and very much a song for the time. You know, accountability, accountable, and just, yeah. This is, you know, we're living in an age now of, you know, information age, information technology. So, you know, let's utilize that. We're very fortunate then. You know, many of our elders and many that have gone before us, who, you know, in terms of what we're exposed to, the level of information, sometimes it's an over avalanche. It's too much information, but I don't know if you can ever really have too much information still, but, you know, I'm kind of get what I'm saying, but sometimes it'll be just like, whoa, gosh, there's just so much, and sometimes, you know, like I know personally, there's so much information just coming your way and you just can't even keep up with it, but it's good still to have, and it's just because you know that you can just always, when it's there, so when you're ready, you can just go and take it in. But so basically, you know, let's utilize that. Let's make use of this. We are blessed in that sense. We are, you know, every era has its blessings and its hindrances, and we are blessed that we are in this age of such information, and with the means of the technology to spread and to share and to get all of this information out there. And, you know, and information, you know, the key source of it is, you know, to gain and acquire knowledge and wisdom and understanding. And it's important to have that, and it's important to connect with that, and to realize there's always so many sides of a story and a narrative, just like life. You know, they say there's this person's story or their person's truth and their story and their truth, and then the truth is somewhere in the middle, or the truth is definitely sometimes always either with one or the other, you know. But, you know, a wise person will always listen to both sides and then go and become that middle pillar and reflect over everything that they've heard and taken in, and then come to their judgment accordingly based on all of the knowledge. If you're only getting a one-sided narrative and a one-sided thing of anything, that's not good. We need to be able to access and be told everything, particularly as grown people and as grown adults, you know, and then so that can also be passed on to the youths as well, and that's something that should be passed on to the youths, to be able to, you know, start to, take everything on board, weigh up all of the arguments, the information, and then come to the conclusions accordingly, and hopefully the right ones. But usually when, you know, the balance and things are put in a reasonable way that makes sense, that you just know this makes sense, irrespective of what else could be being said, this just one makes sense when you rationalize, like that, the great terminology to reason, reason. Let's reason all the time and come to our own reasoning. So, with that said, anyway, I'm going to be, I think I've kind of said what needs to be said on that part, that front. So, I'm going to move to now talk about the moon. I'm going into, the crux of this, today's show. The moon, the wonderful, I think, beautiful moon. Now, what is the moon? We see the moon out there, and particularly right now, it's almost full, it's bright. When I was looking outside, it was there, just luminous and bright, just drawing you in and drawing your attention. Who can really miss, the wonder of the full moon? You are drawn. That's one of the times. So sometimes I think in, everyday reality and waking life, we're always so busy. We're just we're always kind of looking down here, so we're just looking around. We don't always look up in the skies. Some of us do, we're kind of awed, particularly in the night sky, or looking at the stars and the constellations, particularly those that have that interest in looking at the stars, or those who are astronomers or amateur astronomers or professional astronomers, or some farmers and people who are tuned with nature are very much looking up there, particularly at the night sky. And even in the daytime, when we see a nice, clear, beautiful sky, or the sun is bright, or even when it's a dull, overcast day like it usually is in London town in these winter months, you're kind of looking up at the sky and thinking, oh God, it's going to rain today, or it's another gloomy day, or when's the sun going to come out? So we are kind of more, I suppose, in a way, drawn to looking up than we probably think. But generally, it can sometimes just be dismissed because of, the everyday hustle and bustle of life. But there's something about the moon, particularly the full moon, that makes you stop and can make you sometimes, you just look up and it's like, wow. You don't know very much about the moon, astronomy, astrology. You just look and like, wow. And I think that's something that captured the imagination of ancient peoples and peoples from every part of this globe. There's a story, there's names, there's mythologies attached to the moon and to the sun as well as the planets and constellations. But I'm just kind of focused on the moon right now, so just going to stay on the moon. So, all right. So what is, we see the moon, we know the moon is the moon. So a little bit, but exactly a bit more, what exactly is the moon? So from an astrological perspective and astronomy as well, I'm going to be touching on, the moon and the sun are known as luminaries, which means lights. They are, the lights in the night sky and the daylight sky. And the moon and the sun, they're not planets. They're not planets like the other 8 planets, which are Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, even though Pluto has been demoted by one of the astronomical societies into a dwarf planet. But dwarf planet Pluto is still a planet, and it's still a force that cannot be dismissed. And it's a planet. Most astrologers still see and we classify Pluto as a planet. So within this whole heavenly orbit within the solar system, you have the sun and the moon, the luminaries, you have the planets all orbiting around the solar system, and you have other celestial heavenly bodies such as asteroids, comets, and meteoroids, all that have been caught in the gravitational hold and sphere of the solar system. So that's just that little astronomical element of that. The moon is our nearest celestial body from Earth, and it's considered to be, they say that the moon is a satellite, but then my whole thing is, what exactly is a satellite? you know. I haven't really come across the definitions, but I suppose if you know what a satellite is an object in space. It's usually like when we think of all the satellites that are roaming, that are, launched and, circumferencing the Earth and the sky right now. Satellites, what they watch, they monitor, pick up information, relate back to the central system or database. I know. So what database is the moon? When they send them in the satellite, sending back its, it's satellite energy too. So that's one to ponder about. And anyway, one of the other considerations of what how the moon, or some in some theories, even in some mythologies, was that the moon was once a part and a body of the Earth, and something happened many eons ago that created this split, this splinter, this breaking away. And then we have this this separate entity that came into being, which was the moon, and then it took residence in the celestial orbiting sphere that we now see the moon. And that gives a good kind of almost nice accountability of, when we see the effects that the tides, that the moon has, particularly on the oceans and on water here on Earth. So there's there is a link. So, there is a link, and, and the moon has an effect on growth, on crops, on farming and everything here on Earth as well. So there is, these mythologies and these theories do show, when you see the science of it, that there's something quite significant in interrelationship with the Earth and the moon, that even through this separation, the moon still exerts a strong effect. And in biblical stories, there is we hear the story of Lilith. Now, Lilith was meant to be the first wife of Adam from Genesis, and Lilith, it's Adam's first wife, because they were created equal, saw herself as equal to Adam. And so the story goes that Lilith, refused to bow down or to submit herself to Adam, her husband. Her frame of mind was, no, I'm your wife, I'm your equal. I will not submit and lie down beneath you. I will lay beside you and side by side with you, but you will not be on top of me. And so she could have been considered like one of the first, or what is now associated with feminists, or feminism, standing her ground and establishing, equality with her male folk, or her man folk, because it's only Adam and Lilith at the time, so we're told. So, well, that didn't go down too well. So Lilith was banished. Adam allegedly told the creator, no, I don't want this wife. She's too much. No, she has to go. So Lilith, and she wouldn't bow and submit. So Lilith took herself away as well, and she branched out, and she went away. Hi, brother. And sorry, Brother Raggedy, just going there. And so Lilith was, cast away, or some say she left and she fled herself. And then, particularly in Judaic mythology, Lilith then came to be a certain, not necessarily in Judaic, I think in probably the Middle East or that region, or those stories, those ancient cultures have the stories of Lilith. Lilith then came to be synonymous with, this demoness that was just there, that just wanted to, like a succubus energy, and she came associated with anything that was bad and that was rotten and wanted to take away and to do harm to babies and all kind of, it's kind of all kind of these horrible associations was linked with Lilith. So when Lilith fled and left, Adam got a new wife. I think he must have requested and put in a request for a new wife, and he got a new wife, Eve. And Eve was more submissive, and we know how the story goes with Eve. She was a good wife until obviously we know what happened with the story of the apple, the serpent and the apple, and all that came with that, or the apple of the eating of knowledge, to know yourself, know your other half of duality, and to know that if you eat something, then what you were told, you've been told something. When Eve, with the egging on of the snake, so-called disobeyed allegedly what she had been told, she'd realized, but hold on, what we've been told would happen didn't happen. So what's all that about? Kind of ties into kind of reality now, huh? So anyway, so Lilith, anyway, until she ate the apple and led Adam astray, was considered the good wife, and then Lilith was the first horrible, terrible wife. And when I kind of just, why I kind of share those stories, when I wrote in my mind, this is how my mind always works, listeners, I hear these things, I kind of make all these attachments, associations. So I was thinking, I kind of wonder as well if there's also, I saw the parallels with, the moon and Earth. So is the moon our Lilith? Because the moon has this dark phase, this dark cycle, this dark shadow period to it. And also in astrology, there's an asteroid named Lilith, and there's also a point in the astrological point with the moon known as the dark moon Lilith as well. And there has even been talk that there's another dark side, or that there's literally another body, there's another dark moon that we never see, which is an area that I came across. I need to do more research on that, so I'm just throwing it out there. So if listeners, anybody's interested and want to do more research on that, that'd be quite good. That's kind of interesting line of study and inquiry to look out for. So there is allegedly meant to be another moon that we don't necessarily see, that's some speculating could be associated with that Lilith energy. So again, myths and stories are sometimes, are told also, and they have astronomical and other spiritual significance as well. So sometimes we have to, decode things. We probably will never always fully get the answer, because that's just the mysteries of life and the heavenly sphere as well. But some mysteries in life, we're not always meant to get all the answers, but I think the whole secret is for us to start asking the questions and to start looking. That's all part of the process, to get those questions, to get us thinking. And that's all part of the mystery. Maybe that is a mystery. I don't know, it's been philosophical. So So that's just one of the, something to ponder on there regarding our moon and our earth and the dimensions. Now, in astrology, the moon is considered feminine. It's the yin energy. The sun is the yang, the yang masculine energy. And the moon in astrology is associated with the mother. It's connected and it rules the sign of Cancer. And Cancer, again, is also a sign that represents and associated with the mother, with nurturing, with emotions, with moods. Because all that are all aspects, again, and cycles, and particularly obviously women have their reproductive cycles, their monthly cycles. Men also have cycles as well. That's not too known about and discussed, but everything in nature, everything has a circadian rhythm and cycle. So the moon is very much symbolic of cycles, that ebbing and flowing, that increase and increase of nature and life, and that we see played out within nature and within us as human beings, both male and female. Now, in Vedic astrology, which I also deal with, the moon is considered. So the moon is known as Chandra, and the moon sign in Vedic astrology, which is different to Western astrology in a sense of Western astrology, or most people, particularly in the Western world, we are familiar and we all know at least, and even we don't know nothing about astrology, we know our sun sign, based on the day that we're born. So everybody knows the sun sign, but most people are not too familiar with their moon sign or their ascendant sign. Now, in Vedic astrology, where the astrological tradition and culture has been continuing unbroken for a much longer period of time, because in the Western world, there was a period after the Renaissance period of where astrology was very demonized and it went underground, even though astrology spurned a lot of the great Renaissance and even industrial age, because it brought forth a lot of great minds like Isaac Newton and all other, I can't even begin to remember them all, who were all into astrology and astronomy. And that led, and it all intertwined and went with science. So most times being a scientist in that era, 15th, 16th century, you know, you were an astrologer and astronomer. That was just part of it. There was just no, you know, there was no division. It was all one. So anyway, and then that we considered it had like a period of where it was demonized and it was shunned in the West, in the Western world, and it kind of went underground. And the tradition flourished in at least the Middle East, Persian cultures, and also Vedic astrology. And there's a lot interlinks also with Persian astrology and Vedic astrology, and also Western traditional astrology before it became what's the word now? Before basically it went underground. No, that's not really the word I want to use, but I can't think of the word right now. So yeah, before it kind of went underground. So it's more of a condition. It's more of a continued tradition in the Vedic astrology. And so Vedic astrology, Chandra, everybody knows their moon sign, and there's actually charts that are just constructed, just based where the moon becomes the lagna, and the lagna is one's ascendant. So in Vedic astrology, your ascendant sign is known as the lagna, which is based on a person's time of birth. And we call that in Western astrology the rising sign or the ascendant. So Chandra is very key in Vedic astrology, more so than the sun sign actually. And when you do Vedic astrology readings and when you're learning Vedic astrology. So in Vedic astrology also, the moon, Chandra, is associated with the mind. Now, the mind is also associated with Mercury, particularly more so in Western astrology, and also the same in Vedic astrology. But in the mind in Vedic astrology, linking with Chandra is more to do with that element of you know, our moods, the changeability, just like how the moon, we see the, you know, the change in phases continuously throughout the moon, of the moon, you know, from the dark, the new moon, to the waxing, to the full, and then to the waning period, back down to the, you know, the new moon, then the start of the cycle all over again. A lot of our minds, that is how the Vedic and the ancient astrologers envision the mind. You know, the mind and our thoughts and our emotions are very fleeting. You know, our thoughts and our thinking thoughts come, they go. Our emotions, you know, we get emotions, we get feelings, they come and they go. So it's very, you know, it's transitory, it's moving. Things are fast moving, and the moon is one of the, you know, the fastest moving of the heavenly celestial objects, and then there's Mercury after that. But you know, in terms of, and the moon makes its quickest transition through the signs within that 29-day period. So that's why they saw and they associated the moon with the mind. And in Vedic astrology, and where you see the crossing of the connection with Western astrology, is that the mind and the energy of the moon is considered to be vulnerable and sensitive and soft, and so it needs to be in a very kind of supportive, grounding, stabilizing environment. And people that are Cancer sun signs, which I'm going to come into a bit more very soon, that would be, you know, very much of a feature. People have planets in Cancer. That might be something they just intuitively know and understand, even if they don't know nothing about astrology. So because of the moon's kind of volatility in its sense of where it can just, and its sensitivity, and it's so easily affected by its environment, because people that have that Cancer energy, they can just absorb energies, they can just absorb energies and atmospheres in a room. They can just go into a room and they can just pick it up. So it needs, stabilizing. So remedies and things, anything that stabilizes the mind. So, people be familiar with, meditation and yoga. And that's why in astrology, in both Vedic astrology and Western astrology, the planet that the moon, what we could call exalted in, or does, or thrives, or enjoys being in the most, is the sign of Taurus, the earth sign, the second sign after Aries. Because Taurus is an earthy sign. It's very grounded, it's very stable. It's just that earth in energy. And again, we kind of see the links, with what I was talking about earlier with the moon and the earth and its links. So maybe that's why, because of that ancient link and association between the two, that the earth, the moon, rather, is drawn and so likes to be grounded in one of the most earthiest of signs, which is Taurus, because it gives the moon that much needed stability that it needs, and that moon energy, and people with a lot of that moon energy, or that thrive on. So yes, so that's one of the reasons why. So if you hear of the exaltation and why the moon, that's one of the reasons why the moon is what we call exalted, or does. Exalted just means a sign that a planet enjoys and finds it the most easiest and comfortablest being in, because the planets, like people, like life, thrive in some environments better, more so than others. So astrology, what the ancient astrologers did was, through much observation and much study of people and nature, saw and understood, well, when a planet, or a particular planet, is in a particular type of sign, it does better and it thrives, and the natives of these signs and planets do well also in these signs. That's where it comes from. And when we hear of debilitated and fall and all that, that's just because, again, just like people and energies, some planets just do not, they struggle, they can find it a bit more uncomfortable being in certain signs, environments, than in other signs, which is just part of life, so that's just kind of what those, and me personally, I do see those you do see those differences and those accountabilities of how that arises as well. So so there's a kind of general consensus on that. Now, there's many names, many cultures have had many names for the moon. One of the most known names from Greek and the Roman periods and religions for the personification of the moon as a goddess was the goddess Selene. So Selene is a lunar goddess, and we hear of Selene. If you hear of Selene, that is that's the moon. So Kuan Yin, though I know Kuan Yin can be associated with other things in Chinese. Actually, probably no, maybe not so much a Kuan Yin. But Kuan Yin is a compassionate goddess in Oriental mythology. She sometimes has the energy really of a Pisces and Neptune energy, but sometimes there's moon motives that could be also associated with Kuan Yin. Yamaya from the Yoruba pantheon and spiritual system. Again, you can see links with Yamaya being associated and linked with Pisces and that Neptune energy, because Yamaya is very much associated with the sea, the ocean. But again, there's that link because the moon is very much associated with water And with the seeds, particularly the effect that the tides of the moon has on the oceans, on the water, even our own metabolic systems of what are within us is affected with the moon and the different moon cycles, and particularly full moons. So again, that's where that link comes, can be associated. And yes, I'm just thinking you may Kuan Yin. There could be a few others, but I don't want to go and drag it out too long. But yeah, so we'll just leave with them. And also, I'm going to come to Diana. There's also Artemis is another moon goddess deity from the Greek pantheon. She was a twin with Apollo, who is the solar deity, and the two of them are associated with hunting and the hunt. And Artemis Roman counterpart was Diana, and like her Greek counterpart, Diana was originally a goddess of the hunt and of hunting, just like Artemis, that later they evolved over time into a lunar goddess as well. And if I can bring in one of the most famous Dianas that we have known in the past 40 years, so we obviously had Princess Diana, the late Princess Diana. And Princess Diana, astrologically, was born on, her birth date was the 1st of July 1961, making her a Cancer sun sign. So she was a Cancerian, she was a Cancer. So if we look at Princess Diana, she was a very, she had so much of those Cancerian traits. She seemed, very soft. There was a vulnerability about her. Diana's story from her background was she there was 4 siblings and her parents, and then her parents divorced. It was not a very pleasant divorce, and her mother lost custody of her children, so Diana was raised then by her father and nannies. Now, so like I mentioned before, just a little while ago, that Cancer energy it's very vulnerable, it's very sensitive, and if its foundations or its core is rocked, it has a real impact. I mean, that would have an impact on any child. Their mother leaving the home, but particularly a Cancerian, because Cancer is all to do with the mother, because Cancer is a sign of the mother, being nurtured by the mother's family, the roots, the home, that connection. So for Princess Diana, as a child and as a young person, to have her mother leave the nest, to leave the home like that, must have had such a dramatic impact. And also, Cancerians are very connected with their mother, irrespective of whatever type of relationship, good or bad, they have with their mothers. They are very connected with their mothers, and they are very much in sync with the moods and the emotions of their mothers, and it has an impact on them. So we can see then that she had a very, and we hear that it was unhappy. There was an unhappiness, and you kind of saw it in Princess Diana's eyes. Pictures of her, though she's all glamorous and lovely, but there's always sometimes a sadness in her eyes. And obviously, I know some people might say, well, it's because of her marriage and everything that she had to endure in her latter years, which is all probably very true as well. That would have probably just only compounded that. But sometimes it's that energy probably that was taken and coming forth from her childhood, and from that loss of her mother not being in the home and being around, and the reverberations of that done, and that how that affected the family. And it's interesting again that as a Cancerian, she marries one of the family of the land, into the royal family, into monarchy, the queen. And I suppose every mother and every woman in her household, because that's what Cancer represents, the household, the home, the heath, is a queen, is the queen of her manor. So you kind of see these archetypes and energies kind of playing out still. And so, yes, the Diana marries one of the, well, families of the land. And unfortunately, yes, we all know how that ended in the story with that. And then, well, one of the things I bring up also Princess Diana as well, linked to this whole moon energy and everything, like I just explained now with the Cancerian energies. Also, if we go back when I just said that the goddess Diana was known and associated with the hunt. And we hear and we know, we kind of know and identify now that Princess Diana was kind of, or it's even said that she felt hounded by the paparazzi, by the media, and even those last hours in that tunnel in Paris before she passed away. It's like she was, the descriptions, her and Dodie Fayed were in their car being hounded, by those paparazzis that were driving and chasing after them basically into that tunnel. So again, we see that theme again. So it's very interesting how, a name carries a certain energy template that is linked with the mythology, with the goddess, and with how things can play out in life. So I just kind of thought to share that. So that was how there, the association of Princess Diana there with that whole Cancerian energy. So, listeners, I think I'm going to play a little. That's, I think, the kind of wrap up there so far regarding the moon. So I hope that I've just kind of given you a little bit more of an in-depth explanation and insight into all of the kind of connections that the moon has. And so, and its associations and how, the astrological motifs of the moon played out, and we saw it playing out in the life of Princess Diana. Oh, and I also must add, before I forget, Princess Diana's own moon sign was in the sign of Aquarius, the sign of the people, of the people and for the people. And one of the associations of Diana was, was the people's princess. The people kind of took to her, the public in the UK and the world took to her. They kind of saw and sensed her vulnerability, her sadness, and it's that outpouring as well of that Cancerian energy and emotion that she had, where she had, we're told, she had empathy for others and she connected with others. Put aside all of the woe, because she probably was somebody that was coming from pain. She could relate with pain and pain from other people, and there was obviously a side, because Cancer are a nurturing sign, so it can feel and sense that, and when it's been and experienced something, it wants to help and ease the pain from somebody else. So I think there's that energetics at play of where people sense that from Diana. She gave that out, that outpouring of love, vulnerability, sensitivity, almost like, yes, she's a world, but you can kind of feel like she's kind of could be like one of us, still at the same time. So that's why people took her to their hearts, and also particularly when she passed, there was such that emotional outpouring and grief because of that connection. So again, that's just showing how one's moon sign has that connection again, and it's very important, and it all is kind of reflective of what makes us us, the greater picture. So it's always good to know astrologically what our moon signs are, because we are also very much governed. Like I said, particularly over here in the West, a lot of us know our sun signs, but we're not familiar with our moon signs. And again, sometimes there's a lot of good sites out there now where we can type in our, so even if we don't necessarily know our birth times, we can kind of still sometimes, we can find out our moon sign. Sometimes there can be differences depending on the timing that can have an effect, particularly if the moon is in the latter degrees of a sign. So sometimes that's again why the importance of knowing the our time, our birth time, is really important and really helpful, because that all plays a part, because that could just be the difference if the moon is on the cups or at the last degree of one sign, if it's entered the other sign. But with that being said, we can still, the moon does kind of spend 2 days in a sign anyway, so we can kind of find out what our moon signs are. And all the better if we know our birth times, we can find our moon signs, and then, just look that up. There's a lot of, sites, blogs, research and information out there that gives people explanations about what their moon sign means, because, in astrology, the moon represents that our emotional nature, the side of ourselves that, people only really quite close to us will see, family, friends, partners. It's not necessarily the side of, our sun sign or ascendant sign that most of the world will see when we're out there in the world, or even friends. It's more of that private side. It's more that side of, like, literally when we enter our doors and we close our doors, that side of us that comes out. And it's also, it's where we feel more comfortable. We'll kind of usually revert to our moon signs, because it's coming back from what we've learned and our experiences from young, from what we've picked up and absorbed from our mothers, from our nurturing experiences, and also from family. It's going back to the foundations. So astrologically, I always say it's so important for us to know and to connect and to understand our moon signs. It's very, very key. Now, with that, listeners, I've done a lot of talking. I hope you haven't minded me doing all that talking there. But so I'm going to do now, like I said, I'm going to play some uplifting, kind of shake the hips type of, songs, the latter two songs tonight. And so I'm going to have a little break now, where I'm going to play I just found this song yesterday. A friend of mine sent it to me, and I loved it, and I was like, oh my god, I gotta play this tonight. So it's by a Tanzanian artist. Actually it's two stars again. It's like the whole theme today of the older and the younger keeps coming back. So it was a duet by a duo of Kofi Olomide, who is the legend, the African Congolese legend, maestro of Sukos and Dombolo music, teaming up with the fresh rising star, the young king now also of Tanzanian and African music. He's just repping diamond platinums. And so the two of them fused together to do this wicked tune called Wah. And I love it, and I hope you listeners like it too. So here we go. Yes, listeners, I am back. Oh my god, I was just dancing here. I hope you're feeling the energy there. I gotta say, listeners, you have to check out this video. It is just so lit. And Kofi, the maestro, the legend, the king, he's just got so much swag. Kofi just has to come and just grunt, and he just lits and he makes a tune. And diamond platinums is just dope and amazing as always. So, and it's just sometimes I don't know what they're saying. I don't know if it's probably been sung in Kiswahili. I don't know what they're saying, but sometimes you don't even have to know the words. You just feel the energy. You just feel the good vibes, the beauty, and it's just I love it, and I love Sukos music anyway. But it's just lit. And when you see the dancing, my god, when the men and the women, particularly the brothers, I gotta say, when they start doing the Ndombolo dance and they start gyrating those hips, and wow, they're on point. They make me like, yes, I gotta get my game up. They just got flexibility there. But anyway, so that was wow. Yeah. Alright, listeners, we're kind of going to be winding down. So, I've still got a little while to go, but when I say winding down, it's going to be winding down now on the second segment, where I'm going to be now talking about the upcoming full moon. So let's get to it. I hope you're enjoying it, listeners. No, I'm not having such a bad time today. I think that song kind of just gave me a bit more of getting a bit more of a kick, that zest. I could do another hour, but I'm not going to, because today we're not going to that extremes anymore. So I'm sticking kind of within the time frame. So yeah, I'm doing Saturn, limitation, and sticking to time. I always say that, and it never kind of works, but it's a work in progress for me. But anyway, right, listeners. Well, I was going to say tomorrow, but it's not tomorrow. We're not quite there. They're not quite in Saturday yet. But Sunday. So now we're going to be talking about Sunday's upcoming full moon at 8 degrees in the sign of Libra. Now, the moon is going to be exactly... I'm sorry. Some air energy. The moon is going to be... having these Lucas and they just keep wanting to make me anyway, sorry. Just trying to, even the air bubbles come. Anyway, there's too much information, so let me get back to what I need to be talking about. Sorry. So the moon is going to be in the sign of Aries. Now, though it may be looking, if people are looking out and they can see the moon's looking kind of full, and some people think when they see the moon looking really full that it's a full moon, but it's not exactly. Astrologically and astronomically, we consider the moon at the full moon at its apex, when it's directly in opposition by the same degree as the sun. So how full moons occur is when the moon is in the opposite sign that the sun is in. So currently right now, the sun is in the sign of Aries, early degrees of the sign of Aries. It entered, like I was saying last week, last week, Saturday, on the 20th of March, the sun entered into the sign of Aries, where we had the equinox and the whole new solar new year. And it's going to be spending its time in Aries now for a month. And so a full moon occurs each month when whatever sign the sun is in, the moon is in the sun's opposite sign. So the opposite sign to Aries is the sign of Libra, which is a sign associated with the scales, the justice, balance, harmony. But I'll go into more of that very shortly. Now, so over here, GMT, this Sunday, when that apex point happens, it's going to be at 7:49 p.m. when the sun and the moon are going to be opposite, facing each other. The sun will be at 8 degrees in Aries, and the moon is going to be 8 degrees in Libra. Now, this full moon is it's known as, or can be associated with what is known as a supermoon. Now, we're going to be having 4 supermoons this year, and this is the first of supermoons. Now, supermoons are called supermoons because it's when the moon is at its closest point near to the Earth. So the moon will look even larger, even bigger, and even nearer to us from our Earth's vantage point. So that is what a supermoon is. And when a planet is perigee, or the moon is perigee, near to the Earth, that's an astronomical terminology, or that's what that means. It's very close in pomexidity, and so that is a supermoon. Now, I think next month's full moon on April the 27th is going to be even more of a supermoon, because it's going to be even closer to the Earth than this one. I think the one in May is going to then be the second nearest one, and I think this one's probably the fourth out of the fourth in terms of its pomexidity to Earth. I hope I'm saying pomexidity right. Forgive me if I'm not, but I hope you I mean closeness is what I mean. So yes, so if we look out, the moon is going to appear even larger to us, and particularly in certain points, certain areas and localities. And so what that also means from an astrological energetic perspective is the energy is even closer. it's going to be felt, and it's probably going to be even more heightened because of that, closeness. Now, so what are full moons? So it kind of just like what I explained, the full moon occurs when the moon is opposite the sun in the opposite sign, and full moons obviously always capture our attention because of its luminosity, its brightness, because allegedly we are told astronomically that the moon is absorbing, it's seeing its face, and there's that face off. It's like, I see you, you see me, sun sees moon, moon sees sun, kind of thing. So the sun's projecting all of its light and energy to the moon. That's where the moon is in her phase. And so she just absorbs all the energy and is reflecting it all back, and we're seeing all of that from Earth's vantage point. And so what that means also from an astrological energetic perspective is it's a heightening of energy, and it's an illumination now. The moon, like I was mentioned before, is associated and it's linked with our emotions, our inner world, and things that can be bubbling up, and the sun is the consciousness, what is out there, what we see, the bright, the lights, you can't miss it, and so when the two kind of meet together in a full moon, and in that also what we call astrologically that opposition energy, it's I see you, you can't hide kind of energy. So things, so full moons they're periods where things, issues, emotions that have kind of been bubbling under the surface, just pow, it comes out, good or bad. It's very hard to keep that energy contained within a full moon, and and that goes just not necessarily emotions per se. It can just go for anything that is hidden or needs to be reflected, that needs to come out, discussions that need to be had, discoveries that need to be made, because when the light is on you, or when the light is shining on something in some area, that's going to be illuminated, it's going to be highlighted. And so we all hear the stories of also the moon being associated with lunacy, and some people coming crazy or cray during that full moon energy. And yes, that does kind of happen. That is confirmed. Also, I know there's been studies where police stations, they know, and some police officers know around the full moon there's going to be more, sometimes there could be more attacks, more arrests, because just that energy, that's when people can play up and things can just go out of course, out of kilter. So that is known, and sometimes I think there's also studies with people who are suffering from mental illness and mental disorders. That full moon did kind of heighten and would exacerbate their symptoms as well, particularly people I think that were in mental in mental, people being hospitalized in mental hospitals. That was something that has been noted as well. So there is definitely a correlation again, and that then links back with what I was saying before, with that link with the moon and the mind, as well as obviously emotions and behavior and all of those stuff. So there are things to look out for, and to be mindful that, when the moon is full, things come out, our emotions. Sometimes it can feel like a force is taking over us, but it's not necessarily the case. We're always usually in control. It's just sometimes recesses and parts of the subconscious mind, or that needs to come out, comes out. Particularly, we also have to look at the areas. When I say the areas, I mean the sign that the moon is in. That has that flavors that whole theme as well. So each month it will be something different based on what sign the moon is transiting for those 2 days, and the moon stays in the sign for 2.5 days. So we do kind of have that that energy of that full moon period for 2.5 days. So the new moon is sorry, not the new moon, my apologies. The full moon is also it's a good time for reflection, so like again we can get aha moments during a full moon where sometimes it's like things that we just need to know. So say you've been pondering on something, there's a problem or there's an issue, or it can be a good thing you just needed to know. It can come to light. You can get the answers because again, the light, the energy, it's been shown. So if we want, like, or say if we're at a crossroads or we're at some point where we need guidance, we need to know, what is the next step or what should be our next move. Full moons are good times to look out for those answers, those synchronicities that they might come in a dream, just to us, to our minds. It might come through a person, we might be watching something, or we might read something, we might just stumble upon something that can give us the answers, or that sign map or that road map sign leading us to where we need to go. Even could just be linked with that whole particular moon cycle as well. So that's just always something always very important to look out for with the moon. Also, the full moons are good times for clearance. I know some people might think, well, probably the waning moon is a good time to get rid of, energies and get rid of things that need to be got rid of, which I agree with, and I think definitely also. But I think what the full moon does is it helps us to see clearly where we need to go and what things need to be got rid of, where we need to get that broom and start, sweeping away and getting rid of those little corners and nooks and crannies that we probably might miss usually, but it's highlighted in the full moon. I see, so we need to sweep and get rid of you to bring in, the new. So my bangles are dangling. If you can hear that, if it comes through the mic, my apologies. I'm actually doing the gestures as I talk. I'm sorry. That's why nobody can't see me. So I was doing actual broom sweeping gestures. So sorry about that. Anyway, just letting you fill you in, listeners. So that is kind of what that energy does. So the full moons are good because they will help give us that direction. So then we can then work with that waning period, to then get rid of or to cleanse or to renew or to help, dismiss, to help them bring in what we want to bring in, or what is needed to bring in, or what is its time that needs to be seeded in that new moon phase and that new moon period. So so that's kind of things to look for and to connect with. The symbologies and the energies with this full moon, or full moons in general. So yes, there's good and there's good and there's challenging energies, like anything, and it's just being mindful of, I think when we kind of know or in tune with these cycles, it takes time. I think it really takes time, probably a good year, I think, to connect with the cycles, to get the understanding, because you then go through the whole spectrum. You do the whole 360 degree of where you're meant to get getting the full spectrum of the energies and the knowledge. So I always think, particularly kind of getting into moon rhythms and cycles and working with the signs, journaling, it's always good to do it and proceed with it for a whole year, and then come back and reflect from the year, on the date that you started, to see what your growth is, what you've learned emotionally, energetically, intellectually, in whatever way, in whatever capacity, what the moon has taught you and has brought you. And it is very fascinating. It's very subtle, the change of dynamics and that inner understanding, but it definitely, there is a transformational energy and hold that does take root. And just even doing rituals, whatever they may be, to kind of help navigate and connect with the phases of the moon, and to kind of help and to go with one's journaling, that will play its part as well. So it's so getting in touch with our moon rhythms for both men and women is very important. I know, again, because the moon seems so much more easily connected with women because of our own moon monthly cycles and rhythms, but again, there's a connection still with men. We're all still affected, and we also have a cycle and a rhythm, and the moon just helps us get connected with that rhythm and cycle of nature. Now, so this full moon is in the sign of Libra, and like I was saying, the sign of Libra is it's a cardinal air sign, and it's ruled by the planet Venus. And Libra, the energy of Libra, again, is very much associated with balance, justice, equality, fairness, diplomacy, relationships, interrelating with other people. And all that energy also comes from the positive aspects of the planet Venus. The planet also is associated with women. Venus is associated with all the pleasantries and the nice things of life. Things that are attractive, harmonious, pleasant, cordial. So Libra and Librans naturally have that. They're very, there's a congeniality about them. They're very congenial. They're very nice, very pleasant. Very, a lot of Librans have this. They just have this kind of. It's a style, their own kind of style, because because that Venus energy, they're just kind of drawn to certain, they just know what kind of looks good and fits well for themselves in environments, interior design, all that kind of stuff. They just have this natural awareness of space and beautifying things and making things around them and themselves, look nice. However, in whatever capacity that they do that. And then when you see that, that's that Venus energy. But like everything, there's always another side. And so we always hear of, the very nice, lovely aspect of Venus. But there's also another side to Venus. And it's interesting, again, in Vedic astrology and Vedic mythology, they more exemplify that aspect. And it was more so also seen in ancient Western traditions, probably in the time of Julius Caesar, where Venus was associated as a warrior goddess as well, a goddess of war. And in Vedic astrology, it's kind of like a masculine energy there, because Venus is also linked with, trouble and strife and discord. And we see that in the Greek myth story of the Trojan War, where the goddess Venus, or Aphrodite, was responsible for the fallout that ensued between the heroines and the characters of that saga. So with that being said, there's also a side for all of Libra's energy of being very congenial and pleasant, and the diplomats and liking to keep things very balanced, and they're very well spoken, and they can always sometimes find themselves in an argument or in some kind of conflict because of that underbelly energy that that Venus carries and kind of comes through, but then that calls then for that diplomacy to come about as well, to pacify. So let's pacify the situation. So sometimes that Libran or Librans may find that they are drawn into other people's arguments and contentions, and they have to be the diplomat, the mediator, or they can just find on an interpersonal level as well, they can be drawn into things. So also Libra is a sign that it's very much of a people pleaser, and not in a bad way, but in terms of, particularly when it comes to not everybody in generally, but in terms of particularly interpersonal relationships, because Libra is a sign that is very much about relationships and the other person and keeping things as harmonious as can be. So sometimes Librans will kind of shut themselves down and not nourish themselves in order to take care and to nurture the other. So with all of that said, what can we expect from this Libran full moon? Now, this Libran full moon is going to bring up for some, issues to do with relationships. And there might be some contentions that have been bubbling that that comes to the surface, like, because the full moon shines a light, so relationships are going to be, the light is going to be shone on. Now this full moon is in 8 degrees in Libra, and it's opposite the sun, also in 8 degrees of Aries, and also we have the planets Venus in 8 degrees of Aries, and we also have the centaur comatoid, or I don't know what you can. Chiron. Chiron is a celestial body that's quite, astrologers, astronomers haven't quite kind of defined exactly what kind of celestial body to attribute Chiron to, but Chiron is part of a body of celestial objects in space that they've been named as centaurs, coming from the mythological origins, the Greek mythological origins of Chiron. And Chiron in Greek mythology was known as he was known as a wounded healer. And so wherever we see Chiron in a chart is where we're going to be seeing issues of healing and wounds, inner wounds from childhood, from pain and angst in the past, that is going to be coming to a forefront, that needs healing, that needs tending to. So in the sign of Aries, which is very much about self, Aries is very much, like I was saying last week, to do with our assertion, our self-autonomy. So, and again, because the moon and Venus are going to be there, the moon can also be associated with the mother. Venus is women. So for some, maybe issues in relationships with mothers and daughters, a light may be shone on that. Sunday, or this 2-day period, may be a time of reflection and healing and talking, and even a button of heads, because Aries is associated with the head. So literally things coming to a head, or button of heads, or a clearing of some kind. Or could be a nice healing. Could be a call, could be a meet up, or, well, not literally meant to be meeting up, but can't meet up per se in this lockdown time, but however that exchange of energy may arise, there, I'm sure there'll be some there'll be that connection, and that theme will come up. And also because and so also again, themes of relationships. This might be a period again to heal and to look at rifts within relationships, personal, romantic, intimate relationships, or with business partners, or any type of kind of central relationship right now. If there's been issues, or kind of there's chinks in armor, this full moon might bring and highlight that, and show if diplomacy, understanding and balance needs to be addressed, then it's a good period to kind of flesh that out and to work on that. And it's also a time to probably work on ourselves as individuals as well, tapping into that opposite Aries energy, because Chiron and Venus are there. So it's connecting with that inner self, that inner feminine, and which both men and women have, the anima and the animus, which is the male and the female aspects of all of us. So there is, so again, so maybe possibly for some men there might be issues where they have to deal with their partners or their mothers. This can then speak of also the theme, the moon and the sun could speak of the parents, the mother and the father, or the mother and the son, and with the moon and Venus, the mother and the daughter, or female dynamics. So for men also, they might see the females in their lives, the spotlight will probably could be shone on them, where they're called to understand, to even probably to mediate if there's any fallouts, or to bear witness to reconciliations, or just even the good aspects of just women or people just working together and just having a nice harmonious relationship, just having a good time, just that connection. And again, that whole connection with ourselves, because again, like I was saying, Aries is that it's going within, it's looking at yourself. So what areas of our personal selves need healing or need to be addressed and to be nurtured, because the Libra energy can sometimes give so much energy to others or to the other that their own needs are not met. So this full moon is a good time for people who might have been neglecting themselves to take that time to pamper and to nurture themselves. And if relationships are in need of that nurturing, that pampering, that TLC, then to give it that is needed, or to give it to the other person, because sometimes what we give out we then receive back. So yeah, we might receive from that same person, or we sometimes the universe works, we receive and we get it from somewhere else, somebody else in another way. Whatever the love that we send out, we'll receive it, we'll get it back. So that's probably an energy to be to be mindful of and to look out for during this full moon period. And also I suppose one of the news stories again, but I get what I have to kind of address again and highlight is this Libra is about balance. It's the scales. I mean, the goddess, the Egyptian goddess Ma'at, can be associated with Libra, the goddess of balance, reciprocity, truthfulness. And their kind of themes, they're like Libra themes. So out there, and also probably personally in people's lives, themes of addressing imbalances, or whether there's imbalances in our lives or where things need to be more balanced out. This is a good time to address that, to look at that, or it just may arise and come up naturally, organically for us to view. In the greater world out there, we could probably look out for news stories of probably legal cases, or any legal stories or legality stories that is happening. Where I know there is right now there is some people that are taking certain legal discourse pertaining to certain things, particularly with what's happening in the situation, the state of play that we're in right now. So probably look out for possibly updates or stories. Probably won't really hear it on mainstream media, MSM, but probably in social media outlets or the other alternative sources out there, or other avenues. So look out for that. So I think a theme of justice, and justice being justice, the effects of justice in operation, and addressing wrongs, and for balances, it's a check and balance. So things that need to be checked, addressed, and balanced. So I think that's something key to look out for. And possibly also because it's Venus, women in Aries, the warrior goddess. So, some women might out there might be feeling already that energy of that strong assertion, taking no nonsense kind of stance on things. This past week and maybe leading up to this full moon, that's something, possibly some energies that women may be feeling. Probably the men in people's lives will probably be reflecting and seeing that. There might even be stories out there in the news relating to that, women's rights, women's assertion of themselves, that warrior goddess. So I think that's kind of more or less everything covered. So I guess, empowerment again, women's empowerment. So, and just, I think I just kind of said it all. Healing and balance, empowerment, and I think balance again is the order of the day. So, and also I think another thing I should say is that, the theme of the Libra theme will help us to kind of choose our battles wisely. That might come up as a theme for some of us or for some people, knowing what battles to go with, that Mars warrior energy there, and knowing what things to just leave and to just let go, or to just, if you're going to tackle it in that harmonious, diplomatic way, which is that Libran energy. So that might be a theme. If there can be an amicable resolution to something, then this is probably the time to possibly go with that if needs be. So I think one of the key words is choosing one's battles wisely and carefully, because it could be easy to get drawn into battle mode because of that energy of Aries is so strong, which is the warrior, the defender. So it might just not be our own battles, it could be taking on other people's battles as well. But with that, still, we need to exercise caution and, resolution and balance, weighing up the options, which is, again, a Libra theme. weighing up all options and seeing which is a better option for that time and for the longer outcome to go with. So, yes, listeners, and with that, I think I've more or less said everything that I think I need to say. There's always more that can be said, and probably other great astrologers out there with, some even greater further insights to add to all of this. But my take for tonight, I think, I've covered it all for what I can do, and I am within time. I'm within the 2-hour time frame, so I think I've done really kind of well today for me. So I might just go a little bit over, but yeah, it's good for me. So so with that, listeners, I'm definitely gonna wind it down, and I hope that you have got something out of tonight's show. With me, just my lonesome self today. But I hope we just explored a little bit, and I hope we just gained a bit more, given a bit more understanding of the moon and the full moon and what we can expect, what we can tap into as well. So with that, I'm gonna wish you all a wonderful full moon ahead in Libra, super moon. So yeah, if you go get out those phone cameras if you can, because I'm sure some of the images will be wonderful to live in a super moon, so I'm sure they're going to be nice. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be trying to catching some nice snapshots of the moon. And so yeah, just have yourselves a wonderful week ahead. I've enjoyed tonight. It's always kind of different when it's just you and just talking for a good 2 hours, but yeah, it's different and it's an experience. But I look forward to hopefully having a guest on next week to kind of share the space with. It's always nice, my whole astrology is I like to feed off the energy and work and interwork with other people, and so that's all very good. But it's kind of good still to just do you, I guess. For that goes kind of for all of us, isn't it? Where as humans we're social beings, and we're also inner beings. I guess the sun and the moon, we sometimes need to do things solo, or just have our time out, have our moon time, have our inner time, or just time we just do one, which is Aries. You one, and then Libra is you two, me and you. Kind of been a bit corny there, but anyway, listeners, so with that, I'm gonna bid you a good evening, and just all of the best. And like I said, I'm gonna be leaving out tonight again with another collaboration with Diamond Platinum's Tanzanian music king, ruling the airways right now, and another brother, Mbosso, featuring Diamond Platinums, and the song is called Beikoko. So it's another one to I'm gonna start dancing and getting myself in the rhythm. So anyway, all right, listeners, I'm out. Take care. All the best.